Well, to paraphrase Neil Kinnock, and you really always have to paraphrase Neil Kinnock or you'd be here all night. Don't be old. Don't be sick. Don't be poor. Don't be a low-paid worker in the public sector. Don't be unemployed. Don't depend on the state, local or national for any service, for everything is now up for grabs. In the wake of Gideon Osbourne, that's he of Eton and Oxford, just like a very substantial number of his cabinet, deciding that the poorest people in Britain would pay 10 times as much for this crisis as the richest people in Britain, deciding that £81 billion, the cost exactly, incidentally, of the new Trident nuclear missile submarine fleet, will have to be axed over the next 3 years out of the British public services. And of course, throwing, by their reckoning, 500,000 public sector workers onto the dole. And of course, when you throw 500,000 public sector workers onto the dole, you immediately withdraw 500,000 public sector wages from the economy, no longer buying the goods and services that they were buying before. All sorts of public services are now going to feel a very icy Siberian wind. I've just signed up to the Fire Brigade Union protests about the cuts to the fire service. 25% cut in your fire service. God forbid you have to dial 999, but if you do, don't expect over the next period the service to be as fast, to be as efficient as it currently is. How could it possibly be? All sorts of disabled people, people on sickness benefit, going to have time-limited benefits, going to have benefits withdrawn, like mobility components to their invalidity benefit, marooning them in battery farms, which are what some of these residential homes in which they're living can only be described as. Million jobs gone, the salaries of 1 million people taken out of the economy, surely setting the scene for the double-dip recession which many economists have feared, and which the greatest of them, Danny Blanchflower, who wrote powerfully in The Guardian in the week, now say are almost inevitable. And it's hard to see how that could not be so. If you take that amount of money out of the economy that's only just emerged from a debilitating recession, then how could you not plunge the country back into another? And on that point, and I'll shut up after that, on that very point, it seems to me that far too many people, including on this radio station, appear to have forgotten how we got into this mess in the first place. I hear repeated the mantra of, which is so false that Goebbels himself might have invented it, that somehow it's the fault of the low-paid, people who are unemployed, people who are on benefits, people who are sick or disabled, that we have the deficit that we have. We have the deficit that we have because the country poured hundreds of billions of pounds of public money to rescue private banks because of the reckless, buccaneering, piratical, parasitical behavior of the finance capital sector of the British economy. That's the truth of it. That's why we've got a recession. That's why we've got a deficit. And yet, the one group of people who are going to pay least for this crisis are the people who caused it in the first place. And the one group of people who did the least to create the crisis are going to pay the most of it. Well, how's that for starters? And we've got lots more issues too, all coming up right after this.